Hey everyone, happy Tuesday. Welcome to another episode of Sideline Banter. I am Sam Holt, joined as always by my lovely co-host, Derek Tate. Tate, how are you after week 3? I am very excited to get into all that we've got to cover today. Trying to stay positive because, again, we've walked away from another week with many injuries that we're about to cover.
Yeah, I always get a bit more concerned about my takes that I'm missing than the ones that I make.
Sure.
There's been plenty of both. And a lot
Fair.
of them have involved rookie running backs,
Yeah.
which have led to one of my leagues not getting off to a great start. But hey, we're only 3 weeks into the season. It's maybe time to either have some patience or hit the panic button, Sam. It's about that time.
That it is. So we'll be sure to cover all those players we are looking to either panic on truly or remain cautiously optimistic and patient with. So if you are tuning in, please go ahead and get your comments into the chat. If you have any questions about your lineup or players that you're looking at, maybe grabbing on the waiver wire this week, please throw them into the chat and we will try to get to them as quick as possible. Now, because we've had so many amazing viewers come in with amazing questions, I went ahead, I'm going to practice something this week. We're going to throw the waiver wire targets in the ticker at the bottom of the screen. Of course, we will get to them later in the show, but just to keep having content going for you guys, wanted to test that out. But before we go forward, just don't forget to go ahead and like and subscribe to the Women of Fantasy Football channel, as well as to Club of Fantasy Football on YouTube, so you don't miss a single show of ours and all the other amazing content that we have there to offer you guys. So we've already got people in chat. Andrea is always here. We love her. Thank you so much for joining, Andrea. And then we've got this one from Obese Monkey. Are we starting Trey Benson and going against the Seahawks? Right out the gate, let's go ahead and just talk about it because I love that we've got our amazing viewers and listeners active in the chat. Tate, we're going to be talking a lot about Trey Benson as we go into the waiver wire targets and previewing Thursday Night Football. But how are we feeling? Obviously, James Conner dealing with a season-ending injury, foot injury very specifically. Brutal to see him go out, but immediate usage for Trey, don't you think?
Yeah, we were already seeing Trey Benson get some additional run from what we saw last year to start the season. And it was kind of a weird gauge for the Arizona Cardinals, given that they played the Saints and the Carolina Panthers to start the season. They had their first real test against the Niners. But yeah, there's no reason not to, unless you have exceptional other options. I still have Trey Benson as kind of a fringe top 20 option at the running back position. Feel good that he's a running back to play this week, even though that Seahawks defense is one that's pretty formidable. But I'm still going to go with a guy that I expect to see expanded volume and workload and should be the future back in that Arizona offense.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I definitely think that, the best way is kind of maybe, trial by fire? Just throw him in there and we'll see how it goes. There's definitely plenty of usage available for him, I think, right out the gate. So I think going ahead and starting him, again, depending on your other options. But if you're asking, it's because you probably don't have better options. So go ahead and get him into your lineups. I know that I'm going to be trying to work him into several of mine. Another question real quick before we get into many more news and injury updates we want to start off the show with. So let me go ahead and get to this one from Lil Tay DeRock. Hi, guys. Quick question. My running backs are Javonte Williams, Pacheco, Kareem Hunt, and Bashal Tutin. Someone wants to trade me Wandell for Jacoby Merritt. Do I do it?
Yes. Without knowing your wide receiver depth, I would, just because I do expect Corey Krosky Merritt's volume to eventually expand, even though we expected it to this week, and it didn't really. We saw more Chris Rodriguez than I think many of us expected or hoped for, but yeah, given that Wandale Robinson, we're going to see a rookie quarterback under center. We don't really know what to expect from Jaxson Dart. If you have that, if you can get a starting running back, or at least one that we expect to, be in that running back 2 conversation moving forward, then yeah, I'm kind of giving up on Pacheco, Sam.
You're giving up on Pacheco? I'm just wondering if I'm reading this question right, to trade Wandale for Merritt. So you'd be giving away Merritt because you've already got good running backs. Is that because then you'd take Wandale for Merritt? I feel like I don't really want to get rid of Merritt right now if I have him.
I mean, it just depends on your feeling about Wandale Robinson. I'm assuming that's what we're talking about here. So
yeah.
The second option in a Giants offense with a rookie quarterback under center, I'm just going to lean towards, I think that this Washington offense is still going to be pretty productive. Even if he is splitting work with Jeremy McNichols or Chris Rodriguez, I'm still going to go with the upside with Merritt.
Yeah, I hear that. Well, let's go ahead and talk about the big news then, because that kind of segues us right off into Jaxson Dart is going to be starting for the New York Giants. That news came out today. Immediate gut reaction. I'm glad that I drafted Jaxson Dart in my dynasty league because I'm struggling at quarterback in that situation. So, yay me for, saving quarterbacks for a rainy day. But also a top waiver wire ad, 5% owned across multiple league formats. So for yourself, in terms of, you just mentioned, this is a rookie quarterback. How much trust do we have in him going into this week? I feel like if you're asking the question, it's because you're already struggling at the position. So you're looking for upside. I think super flex formats warrant a decent start right off the bat. But in 12 team, I don't know that I'm pulling the trigger finger week 1 before I've seen what he looks like on the field with a full game given to him. What do you think? He's got also the Chargers this week, which is not a very fair matchup. Their defense looked pretty
I'm not messing with it this week.
It's a little spicy.
The Los Angeles Chargers have only given up 45 fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks so far this year. And that's definitely, in the top half of the league as far as effectiveness against opposing quarterbacks. So I'm not messing with it this week. I would consider him for next week against the New Orleans Saints, but then it's a murderer's row, Sam. Then it's Eagles, Broncos, Eagles.
Yeah,
that's what I don't think that we're going to see the best of Jaxson Dart here. Maybe we get a good week against the Saints, but 4 of these 5 matchups are pretty brutal.
I mean, I think that's really important for people to understand if you are going to go out and grab him on waivers in terms of what to expect these next couple of weeks. If I'm starting anybody against the Saints at this point, there's a couple teams out there that I don't feel necessarily nervous about starting anybody against, that being one of them. So hopefully, even if you're dealing with, bye weeks are going to be starting up soon as well. So hopefully he lines up well with a, streaming start for you in that week. But I agree with you. The rest of them are far too worrisome to be that excited about. And it's not just that they're going to be playing from behind and, he's going to have heavy volume. These are tough defenses that are going to make it really challenging for him to move the ball around. And, Russell Wilson, say what you will about him, but he struggled moving around and that line didn't look extremely, it wasn't giving Russ very much time.
I thought Russell Wilson played awful on Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
I thought that Andrew Thomas back at left tackle looked good while he was on the football field. I thought that their offensive line did enough, Sam, in pass pro to give Wilson a chance to win that football game. And his final 4 plays on the doorstep of the end zone in a 2-score game, I know the odds were very low, but 4 throwaways? One that hit the goalpost on 4th and goal. It's an unceremonious end for a great player. And I don't know if we'll see him again, barring any sort of injury in a Giants uniform.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal. Not the way that you want to go out, prime time, Sunday Night Football against the Chiefs. But I think we both talked about it a little bit last week. We didn't expect the Chiefs to walk away from this one with a loss.
Yeah, it was Sunday Night Football, not Monday Night Football. But yes, either way, it was, Russell Wilson was not good. And I understand why they decided to make the move to Dart. From a fantasy lens, I'm not going to start him this week unless you are literally desperate in a 16-team league. I'm a wait-and-see approach.
16-team, 2 QB, sure.
Yeah.
Then yes, that makes sense. But again, it's just... this is not a matchup that you're that excited about.
Yeah.
Before we get into more injury news, I'm just going to jump back to this one from Obese Monkey. Their question originally was, are we starting Trey Benson going against the Seahawks? They are saying it's either I start Benson and bench Monty. I mean, based on the game they had Monday night, I don't really want to be benching Montgomery. But how about you? How do you feel about that?
I mean, the matchup against the Browns is one that I'm not as excited about because that Browns defense, all of a sudden, Sam,
sure,
we saw them with Joe Burrow on the football field for the Cincinnati Bengals in week 1. They didn't have a good offensive performance. The Browns defense finally collapsed once their offense gave them absolutely nothing against the Ravens, but that was a competitive football game into the early portions of the second half. And then last week they put it on the Green Bay Packers, who were red hot. So I'm not very excited to start David Monty. I would actually roll the dice with Benson.
I think that's fair because when you think about the positions he gets put in terms of where he's going to score, it tends to be those goal line carries. And with a defense like the Browns, I could see them being, pretty much standing up straight in terms of not letting Montgomery cross that line. So I could see that being a bit of a challenge. And, going against the Seahawks, we've got Thursday Night Football, another primetime game, could be a little bit more fun to throw Benson in there. So I definitely think that worth a start there. Let's get to one more question and then we'll jump into much more injuries because there's so many to talk about, guys. There's a lot. All right, this one from Dr. Cheesus over on Twitch. Would you rather take Browns defense or Chargers defense? Love a defensive question.
Give me the Chargers defense against a rookie quarterback and a struggling offensive line.
Yeah, it's kind of it kind of makes sense there. I do think that the Lions are going to make a tough go for the Browns, but I do go with a strong defense and a rookie quarterback. I think it makes a lot of sense. What's up, Albert? Thanks for joining. All right, let's jump into all of these injuries. We've talked and named this episode running back struggles. So let's go ahead and keep the conversation on running backs. Like we said to start it, we've got James Conner out for this season with a foot injury. We also have Najee Harris out with an Achilles for rest of season.
Sucks.
Absolutely brutal. We've got Tyrone Tracy for the Giants, shoulder injury. Talk about someone that's giving a bright spot to the Giants because we've done nothing but say negative things so far. Cam Skattebo has been pretty fun to watch. And as soon as Tracy was out this week, we saw a lot of volume go to him. And he's really fun to watch run across this field. I was having glimpses of, when you're playing pinball and you watch the ball just bounce and hit those extra scores and he's just lighting things up. As he was bouncing between players, I was just waiting for little bing, bang, pow between those hits because he's just bounced off players so well. Maybe I'm, again, just really excited because, again, a player I took in several dynasty leagues. So looking for early cash out. But how do you feel, Tate, about Cam?
Are you waiting to put a graphic like from the old 1960s Batman or pow, bam,
Skattebo,
whap? So you were on the Skattebo train because you thought he was a wild man, and watching him play football, it reminds me of the Irishman from Braveheart. You're a madman. That is to me Cam Skattebo, his role in the NFL. You can't help but just gravitate towards, your eyes are magnetized to him because he gives so much effort. He plays so violently. I love it. The effort on a team that we know is bad. It doesn't matter. He's just going out there and battling. So, and the injury to Tyrone Tracy, look, I don't know with a new quarterback under center what we're going to see with Dart as far as his, tendency to check the ball down instead of using his legs. Mm-hmm. But you got to be very, very happy with him converting 6 of his 8 targets into 61 receiving yards. Mm-hmm. If this offense is going to be playing from behind and Dart is willing to check it down, then Skattebo in PPR could have a higher floor than I would have anticipated entering the year.
I think that's very fair. I'm, again, very excited to see what the two of them do to connect because I do think there was some fun moments in the preseason between them, building off that momentum. They've got very tough matchups again going into this week and I think going into the rest of the season, but at least they're looking for some bright spots. And I think what I also love about Cam is he's just this kind of energetic presence that's going to keep the offense amped and into the game. I saw a graphic, I'm going to totally butcher what it said, but it had a side by side between Christian McCaffrey and Cam Skattebo and said some running backs are cerebral, some will eat a box of crayons, and it's just and they're just they're just there for vibes. And it's I like that Cam is just there for vibes.
You remember the old NFL Blitz commercial where Cordell Stewart was eating, I don't know, nails or something like that? That's Skattebo.
Team meetings are happening. Dayball is talking at the front and you just hear crunch, crunch. And it's just looking around, it's who the is chewing? And then it's just Cam just eating a box of nails and crayons in the corner, what? I like shapes and colors. I don't know.
Yeah, I can't say it any better than that. I love Skattebo. I'm excited to see what he does. Hopefully this offense and maybe Malik Neighbors, who looked like he had already emotionally checked out with Russell Wilson, the 3-game, experiment with him under center. This offense in this organization just needs a little bit of optimism and hope. Hopefully Dart brings that. And we know no matter who is under center that Skattebo is going to bring the pain every time he touches the ball or whether he's in pass pro. That dude's a gamer, man. Love him.
He's a gamer. He's just fun to watch. So at least we're going to have that in terms of cheering for upside. We've got another running back question, which is lovely because we're going to wrap up these running back injuries here shortly. This one from Apex, looking to trade CMC for depth. Oh, okay. Looking for real depth then if you're looking to move him. The only other running backs I have is A-Chain, Aaron Jones, and a bunch of handcuffs. Got an offer giving away CMC, B-Rob, handcuff, and Debo for Javonte, Kyron, and Olave in PPR. Interesting.
Yeah, interesting.
Javonte and Kyron I like. Olave's getting a lot of volume.
He's getting a lot of volume. He can't seem to cross the 60-yard receiving threshold with 10 plus targets every week. But there is a lot of volume there. And Javonte Williams has been playing well, Sam. And Kyron had a really nice game. No matter how well Blake Corum plays in a complimentary role, it seems like Kyron is Sean McVay's guy. I wouldn't be against it, but it's just so hard for me to tell you to trade away CMC when the man is seeing, wide receiver 1 type volume in the passing game.
Sure.
They're about to get Brock Purdy back. I understand the rushing numbers haven't been there for McCaffrey, but I just can't trade away that type of volume. And Debo's also been, I throw away the Marcus Mariota game. Like they don't want to throw the ball with him.
Yeah,
really.
That makes sense.
I'm not panicking because I expect Daniels to be back within the next week or two.
I think what I would do is, this is a solid offer. I mean, it's giving us both pause. I would see what else you could squeeze out of this fantasy manager, because if we're both pausing, it's because we obviously see the immense value in CMC. He's been phenomenal to start the season, definitely doing away with most of my offseason takes, thinking I wasn't that excited about him. But that being said, just see what else, this is the time to just squeeze a little bit tighter and see what else you could get for this.
If you want to, it's fine. It is
a good offer, but I like to nudge. I like to poke the bear and see what else I can get. It's CMC, for crying out loud, and Debo. And like you said, once Jaden comes back, Debo's going to continue to eat. And I do like that offense with them together.
McLaurin's hurt too.
McLaurin's hurt too. So you've got a lot of different pieces there that could end up being really great later as players start coming back. So that manager's going to end up with a lot of volume. So just see what you can do to kind of squeeze out a few more. All right, let's see. Let's get to a couple more questions. I like this one as a wide receiver question, because we've got several wide receiver injuries to go over too. We talked a lot about Troy Franklin last week. This is a similar situation because Trey Tucker put up a 40 burger in many fantasy formats this weekend. So looking to chase the hot hand. And I know myself, I'm going to be looking to pick up Trey Tucker as well. But are you looking to drop Troy Franklin after this game?
I'm not. It was disappointing to see Franklin have what I thought was an encouraging follow-up performance to a nice week 1. And it felt like there was some potential that Franklin could be on the verge of a breakout season. And then he follows it up with a really rough game in week number 3 against the Chargers. So I'm not willing to panic yet. Trey Tucker, Sam, we've seen this with Tucker before where he has these spike performances. Just even last year, there was against Carolina in week 3, had 96 yards in the score. The problem is, generally Trey Tucker has fallen back off every time he has a monster game. It's not sustainable. Pick him up for sure to see if it does work out. I just wouldn't drop Troy Franklin for him.
Yeah, in terms of consistency for the offense, we're still looking for the Broncos to get more consistent as well. But in terms of playmakers for the Raiders, we expect Brock Bowers to get healthy, get right, and start to take away a lot of these targets. I mean, in theory, Ashton Jeanty should be getting a tiny morsel, a single target or two. We can get to that later. Or we can get to it now since we're on the subject. But at the same time, I don't know that I'm really looking to drop Franklin. I mean, it all depends on the depth that you have available. But I don't know that I'm really want to drop Franklin right now. Otherwise, you're just playing hot potato with players that are popping off each week.
Sure. I mean, 8 targets last week for Trey Tucker, followed up with 9. I expect Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers, like you mentioned, to be more involved. I understand that Geno Smith, they can't seem to run the football even with Ashton Jeanty. So it looks like he's going to be having to throw the ball quite a bit in 2025 to stay competitive. Certainly worth a speculative ad. I just would prefer to have a piece of the Broncos passing offense over Trey Tucker in the Raiders offense. So that's I'm gonna roll with Franklin, but I understand if you have strong feelings towards Trey Tucker, sure.
Yeah, I think that's fair. All right, let's get to a couple more questions, and then we're going to continue going down this list of injuries. We've also got to talk waiver wire, plus a little bit of panic or patience. We're already going through several of those names that are on the list. So, and that's because you guys have amazing questions. But let's go ahead and get to a couple more. This one from Trone Force. How much fab would you spend on Dart in a super flex with $200 budget? They had Russ as their second quarterback.
I mean, in a super flex league, I would probably drop, around $30 on him because he's somebody that
Fair.
I don't expect that return to anybody else for the rest of the year at under center. So you are getting yourself a quarterback 3 with, QB2 upside eventually down the road. You're not going to probably play him within the next 5 weeks like we already talked about. But yeah, I mean, I'd probably spend somewhere, depending on how desperate you are and how thin it is a quarterback in your league, somewhere between $20 to $40 to get yourself a starting quarterback that you can rotate in and have as a depth piece.
I think that the 20 to 40 range makes a lot of sense. Also, curious what your league mates like to spend their fab on. I know everyone's leagues are very different in terms of how they like to spend their money. Some, people have friends that like to just absolutely blow all their cash on specific players. Check to see if, your other league mates are also, any of them are desperate at quarterback, then maybe you have to spend a little bit more because you're going to be competing with somebody else. So check the market across rosters to see if you might have to throw a couple more dollars in there.
The pulse of the league.
Yeah, just see what's going on. If there's a group chat, just, feelers. But of course, don't show your hand. This one from Kanan. Would you guys start Monty or Judkins? My other running backs are JT and Barkley. Well, yay for JT and Barkley, crying out loud. Although Barkley didn't get you too many points this week. But Jonathan Taylor, I mean, a lot of people are saying that if you were to draft today, he'd probably be number 1 off the board just based on his volume.
Definitely be a top 5 pick. I would go with, as you call him, Judkins. I call him.
Did I say it wrong? Judkins?
It's Quinshawn Judkins.
My bad.
It's okay.
It's okay. I'll just fall asleep later tonight just thinking about how I fucked it up.
I mean, look, Judkins against the Green Bay defense, which put it on the Detroit Lions, and we talked about how they bottled up Jahmyr Gibbs in week number 1. Judkins rushed for over 90 yards, and what Dylan Sampson saw 1 carry to Judkins 18. Like it is his backfield. So if you're banking on a touchdown and you believe in the Lions offense, sure. But I'm going to go with the volume because I'm really encouraged by what I've seen from Judkins, even in a bad offense.
Sure, fair. Since we're looking at this matchup specifically, we did just watch the Lions manage Derrick Henry quite well in terms of how they handled the run game.
Yeah.
The punch out was, brutal for Henry, third time he fumbled a ball and second for turning it over completely. So that's Henry alone, but both, I think, running backs could end up with some struggles because the Lions defense is going to be strong against the run. But I do, to your point, if you're going defenses versus defenses, I think the Browns defense is just that much stronger. So I would go with Judkins as well between the two. And then, you have one more take before I jump to the next one?
No, I mean, we can take one more, and yeah, I love that we're getting so many questions.
So many questions. Yeah, no. Clearly, we're all in this together. This is a support group. It's change the name of the podcast to the Tuesday night support group for how we're supposed to handle every time we're setting our lineups each week. This one from Kevin. Benson or for Kamara?
I mean, you can. What's scaring me though, Sam, about Alvin Kamara, one, the Saints are just terrible and getting blown off the field. It feels like, I mean, I know that they were somewhat competitive the first 2 weeks, and then they get, just torched by Seattle. Kamara though only has 10 targets on the season, despite them having all of these negative game scripts every single week. We're so used to Kamara seeing a healthy amount of work. And basically what establishes his fantasy floor is his pass catching contributions. It seems like that's a little bit lower. And for that reason, I maybe am willing to take the home run swing on Benson here. Mm-hmm. But if you want to go safe, sure, cash out on him and go with Kamara, who's more of a proven product.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I'm absolutely gutted that Kamara isn't doing better this season with all that I hoped for him in the offseason. His utilization has been terrible. The Saints need to get something together. This week they've got the Bills, so don't know if it's going to be this week. Probably not. But yeah, Benson for Kamara, just based on how we're starting this season off and Benson's immediate usage going up. Got to go Benson between the two. Let's get to one more question from Twitch, and then we'll just quickly list some of these wide receiver injuries that we're currently dealing with, because we do have a lot of wide receiver questions coming through. All right, this one from Dr. Jesus. Looking to get better wide receivers. I have Jefferson, Flowers, Higgins, and Johnston. Do you think I should trade Flowers and Higgins for someone even though they had bad weeks, or should I just wait? Ooh, this is playing perfectly into panic or patience for later.
Well, the problem is with Higgins, what are you waiting on? Joe Burrow is not walking back under center anytime soon. So Higgins is a name right now. And I mean, he's a talented player, but he's more of a brand name value that isn't giving you those type of returns. Say Flowers, weird game. His usage was outstanding through weeks 1 and 2. And then in a shootout where the Ravens ended up facing a negative game script in the fourth quarter, Zay Flowers was a ghost. Kind of a weird game, but I'm fine holding Flowers. But if you can upgrade, if you can get into a higher tier by combining Flowers and Higgins Sam, who would you target? I mean, if you were to trade both of those players for one wide receiver, sure, if you can get Puka Nacua, do it in a heartbeat. But who else are you wanting to upgrade to? Like, would you do that for Malik Neighbors?
Maybe for Neighbors. And we're talking about, moving both pieces, but you could do some sort of combo or single trades. Players that are getting usage right now, because you say, should I wait? What are you waiting for is the question, because in terms of the matchups coming up for the Bengals, they're absolutely brutal. They've got the Broncos, Lions, Packers, Steelers, who say what you will about how we're playing, but our defense is still really good against the Bengals. Jets not super worried about, but they can sometimes be formidable. Bears, Steelers again, Patriots, Ravens, Bills, Ravens. That stretch of just Ravens, Bills, Ravens again later is just pretty brutal. You don't have easy games until later against the Dolphins, Cardinals to end the season. Right. What are you waiting for? You're waiting for the right offer and the right player to be available. I mean, you say Neighbors, other, wide receivers that I'm liking in terms of their usage, probably like Roma Dunze is doing really well in terms of being used quite consistently and getting a depth piece. You've already got Justin Jefferson, so you're not necessarily looking for someone to knock it out of the park. I don't know that you can get JSN. He's just performing too well. It might be too rich for anyone to trade off, but maybe because you're doing two pieces, you could end up with someone like Jackson Smith and Jigba. So I think there's plenty of wide receivers. You just got to see what teams in your league are desperate at other positions and looking to make moves.
Yeah, I think it's just you're giving up Zay Flowers, who is still a top 20 option at the position.
Sure.
And I get throwing in T. Higgins maybe entices somebody with like a Jamar Chase or, somebody who's struggling that has an elite wide receiver. Sure, kick the tires on it, but there's probably only about, 5 or 6 guys that I would consider doing that for.
Yeah. You just got to see who's willing to budge on what players that you like in terms of who's available. This comment here from Obese Monkey, Drake London is getting traded and not worth waiting anymore. I gave him time and just cost me so much. Yeah. It's talking about players that we're worried about. I mean, I think this is kind of a perfect way. We got to just jump right into panic or patience. But first, let me do this quick read for our lovely friends. As a part of Women of Fantasy Football's commitment to giving back this season, we have another raffle for you live on website now. We're raffling off a signed, drumroll please, Bo Jackson Raiders jersey. Crying out loud, Tate, you got to get in on this one. Tickets are $5 a piece, and the raffle ends on October 1st. And winners will be announced on October 2nd. Go to womenoffantasyfootball.com or just hit the direct link in the description of this podcast to get your tickets today. All ticket sales will be donated to the Association of Women in Sports Media, a license of 501, whose goal is to support and the advancement of women in sports media. Guys, that's a hell of a raffle. I would love me this Bo Jackson jersey, not going to lie.
Bo knows. The older it 80. Sorry.
I was waiting for you to say that earlier, just with your Raiders voice.
I wanted to let you get through the read.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
A level of professionalism over here, Sam. Come on.
All right. This one from Hang 20, and then we'll jump into Panic or Patience because there's plenty of players to talk about that will ping pong back and forth into waivers. But this one from Hang 20. Hi, would you trade BTJ, Josh Jacobs, Travis Hunter for Amon Judkins and Scattaboo, half-point PPR?
Yes. Yes, I would. Travis Hunter scares me right now, Sam. Brian Thomas Jr., while we're on the topic too. But
on our list of players that we're going to be panicking on shortly,
Amon-Ra is you're kind of tearing up when you're going from BTJ and Travis Hunter. You're kind of upgrading the wide receiver position. And then Jacobs, you're turning into, two players that I think that are going to see a lot of volume. Sure, they're not going to be playing in the Packers offense, but the volume should be there. And, if one of them, if not both of them hit, it just feels like right now, Sam, Josh Jacobs is a steady play, but we're not seeing that elite fantasy ceiling, which does make me a little bit more willing to go ahead and part ways with Jacobs. And then, of course, BTJ and Travis Hunter have been disappointments. Amon-Ra's a stud, and you're kind of throwing the dart there with the two rookies at running back.
Yeah, no, I like this a lot. I think I would hit smash on this trade. With that, let's go ahead and segue into Panic or Patience. We've got several players we want to talk about. Let's go ahead and pivot talking back about quarterbacks. We talked about, Jaxson Dart being someone that you want to go ahead and grab off the waiver wires, depending, on your quarterback situation. Other waiver wire quarterbacks of note before we get into Panic or Patience. Geno Smith for the Raiders is 28% rostered. Carson Wentz for the Vikings, 5% rostered. And then let's go ahead and just compare those right now with quarterbacks that I think we talked a lot about this offseason. Bo Nix to start it off, because I am pretty gutted myself with how much Bo Nix I have in Superflex and how much I am not happy about it in terms of wanting my money back. I wish I kept the receipt. Bo had 153 yards this week with 1 touchdown and 33 rushing yards, but it's not enough, and I am sad.
Hell no, it's not enough.
No.
I mean, we just talked about Bo Jackson, and right now Bo knows that he's killing our fantasy squads because he's playing very, 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 very poorly.
Poorly. It's not good.
You hope that he'll have a bounce back game against the hapless Cincinnati Bengals right now, Sam, because
at home,
they in the Mile High City, and right now they've got to feel like a weird team, right? This is a team that had high expectations coming into the year. A lot of great pieces on defense. Bo Nix had a great rookie season in particular over the back half of the season once he kind of got it figured out. I was super high on him too. And the Indianapolis game, it's a weird one because of the call late in on the final play that allowed Indy to go ahead and, kick the game-winning field goal a second time.
Sure.
But last week, Bo Nix didn't get the job done. And we've seen this offense struggle through the air pretty much throughout the entirety of the season, with maybe Indy looking like the only bright spot. But this has got to be a get-right game for Bo Nix, kind of similar to Caleb Williams last week against the Dallas Cowboys. Bo Nix has got to show us a little bit of something here. Otherwise, I would give it patience for one more week, Sam. If not, then you're starting to look other directions.
I was going to say, how we diagnose this going forward, I think this is patience for this week. I feel like he stays a streaming option for you just because the matchup against the Bengals is too good. The Bengals have been playing so poorly. They are at home. This is, like you said, a get-right game for this young squad. I don't think that Sean Payton's going to allow him to walk away from this game without being successful. Now, the problem is the following week is at the Eagles. So not necessarily going to be get right into a steady stream of amazing fantasy points. However, there are other bright spots after this. After the Eagles, they've got Jets, Giants, Cowboys, Texans, Raiders, Chiefs, and Commanders. Like
I'd say
there's other good matchups. Could streaming this week, patience. Maybe you sit him next week against the Eagles, depending on your options. But I do think there has to be brighter days ahead.
I feel like my fantasy nickname is going to be Derek Better Days Are Ahead Tate, because I keep feeling like I'm saying that about a lot of the guys that I believe in, and Bo Nix is one of them. Mm-hmm. But it's got to be this week. Otherwise, it's time to move on.
Yeah, I don't like waiting around. So this is going to be my last week where I have
3 weeks into the season. We're a quarter of the way through our fantasy regular seasons in a lot of ways. So it's got to start to come together quickly.
And, to kind of call it back to one of the questions we had earlier, like, or do I wait? At this point, we're going to week 4. We're not waiting anymore. This is entirely the time to panic, to make trades, to rethink your roster, to take a deep look at players that you're concerned about, the matchups they have coming, because we now have a decent sample size of these defenses to know how they're going to handle each position. So to me, I definitely think this is like, okay, get a cup of coffee, get yourself comfortable, throw all of your players up on the whiteboard and just figure out who you are good with going forward, because likely this is going to be who they are.
Look in the mirror and say, I am not having a good fantasy football season, and I've got to make some changes.
Yeah.
I've had to say that to myself. So you're not alone, everybody who's 0-3. I get it.
Yeah.
So who else are we hitting the panic or patience button on, or waiver wires kind of weave these stories together?
I think that let's talk about Jake Browning for the Bengals, since we just talked about the Bengals. There's a lot to panic for Bengals going forward, just because they're without Burrow. And even if they had Burrow, this offensive line is just terrible and can't protect to save their lives. So let's actually grab Browning out of the quarterback conversation. The available quarterbacks to pick up off waivers, I would rather start Geno over Jake Browning going into this week. That's a pretty easy call for me. You've also got Carson Wentz available. They are traveling to Ireland against the Steelers this week, so not necessarily someone I'm super stoked to be starting, just given the travel week. It is going to be a tough defense, but I would want to grab Carson if I'm looking for quarterback depth, and I want to make sure that maybe I don't have anybody else. Other people are hurt. Someone that is a starting quarterback, a live body that has Justin Jefferson to throw the ball to, you want to stash away. But in terms of where I'm looking at Browning going forward, I don't know about you. I have a lot of Jamar Chase, like a hoarding level. We need to talk to a therapist. I actually have my appointment on Friday. We'll probably be talking about some fantasy football during that. I have an unhealthy level of Jamar Chase, and he is getting the ball, but we talked about Higgins, huge concerns there, and even bigger concerns, for Chase Brown as well. So let's kind of connect this together and just talk about the Bengals as a whole, because there's plenty to cover here.
It's a fantasy football Greek tragedy playing out before our eyes. How many?
It's a trifecta of trauma.
Joe Burrow was the engine that made this whole thing work. Mm-hmm. And we've seen Burrow get dinged up in the past, but he was healthy last year and had a great season. And obviously Jamar Chase was the Triple Crown winner at the wide receiver position. So Chase, first round value. Chase Brown, second round, third round fantasy value. Joe Burrow, third round. T. Higgins, third round. So a lot of folks invested a lot of heavy capital, including some that I know that had like the stack of T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Joe Burrow. And it's not my condolences. My condolences.
Yeah.
But Chase Brown's like fantasy points below expectation are staggering, Sam. And a lot of it has to do with, you already mentioned, the offensive line issues. Mm-hmm. This group is one of the worst in the league, and they're going to be behind the sticks constantly. I don't think Brown's a bad player, but he's in a bad position from, an efficiency standpoint, and those explosive plays. Like, I think that in the right situation, we could see similar efficiency like an upside to like that of what we saw from Devon Achane his rookie year. I'm not saying he's going to average 7 yards a carry, but he's an explosive playmaker in what we expected to be a great offense. That's not the case, and you have to recalibrate. So I'm panic on everybody not named Jamar Chase in the Bengals offense. I don't trust Jake Browning. Hell, Sam, I wouldn't rule it out that they go and try to bring another veteran in if he continues to struggle, because this team still is 2-1. Like, they're not dead in the water yet, but
it's not looking good.
It's not looking good.
No. And what's crazy is Browning's had success in the past playing, while Burrow has been out, because Burrow has had several injuries over the years. And, last year, I think Browning played a couple good games and was able to facilitate. This team can't facilitate. So even if they were to go out and get a veteran quarterback, try to think of names available. Kirk Cousins comes to mind, but doesn't really feel like a great fit because Kirk is someone that's slow and needs time, and that offensive line isn't going to give him that time. So I don't even think that would be necessarily a healthy option. It's looking bleak, and I agree. I'm panicking over everybody except Jamar Chase, and it's only because game script and Chase is just that talented that he's going to end up making plays with the scraps that he's given. His yards after catch are amazing. He's going to end up finding the end zone maybe once, maybe twice, but it is going to be tempered expectations as well for him.
Yeah, we're going to see the ADOT drop significantly. I think we're going to see more Jamar Chase in the slot, try to get him, quick touches near the line of scrimmage and just allow him to create as a dynamic yak threat. You'll still get the frustrating T. Higgins game where Browning is able to connect with him on a long bomb, but good luck trying to predict when that happens. When someone mentioned trading Higgins before, I'm 100% about that. I'm also willing to get out of the Chase Brown game. And, if everybody wants to scream at me that, hey, it's going to be the volume and usage is still there. We even still saw a little bit of Taj Brooks in a blowout last week because it was not pretty for Chase Brown. So I'm willing to get out of Brown and Higgins specifically if you can get some sort of return on investment.
Yes, you're looking for consistency. You want to we're still in the early part of the season, but it's, early turning late pretty quickly. You want to see consistency in your fantasy points at every position. And if you're not going to be getting that or feeling comfortable about setting your lineup every week because you've got the likes of Higgins in there as your wide receiver too, it's time to part ways and make some moves. And that's, why we draft depth and how you do. And hopefully you've got amazing options for you. We've got a couple questions here, so I want to get through these really quickly before we get to more players that we are panicking or staying patient on. Some of them will probably come up in these questions because y'all have amazing questions. This one from Andrea. I trade London and B. Allen for CD and R. White. Yes. Scared of London.
I mean, basically it's London for CD Lamb.
Yeah, is essentially what it is, because it kind of feels like lateral for the other two.
I'm not doing it.
CD is hurt, though.
CD's hurt. Exactly.
He's 2 to 4 weeks.
High ankle sprain.
We don't like that. I forgot about that.
I think
it's so traumatic this week. I just shook it out of my head.
I like Lamb more than London when he's on the field. But, I mean, if you're telling me that, CD Lamb could miss the next 2 to 4 weeks.
IR was getting thrown out there. So could it be a solid 4?
Asking for a headache. I'm not doing that trade.
Yeah, maybe pause on that one. All right, this one from Anton. Trying to sell high on Pollard for a receiver. I've got CD, London, Shakir, Coleman, Butte, and Godwin. What names could Pollard plus Shakir possibly get me? Half-point PPR.
All right, if you're trying to get a receiver right now and you're, maybe like a Cortland Sutton. I mean,
yeah, I like Sutton.
Yeah, I maybe a Cortland Sutton. If somebody needs help at running back and they're looking for a running back too, and Sutton's kind of a wide receiver too, I'd be okay. Right around that Sutton, Ricky Pearsall type range.
Sutton, Pearsall's a good name as well. I don't know, for Pollard, I just always like to try and ask for more, but that's because I'm crazy. I mentioned to Dunze earlier, he might be a little bit too rich for this trade, but if you're packaging multiple pieces, maybe you could get someone like him. McConkey,
Flowers, Devontae Adams, somewhere.
Yeah. it's someone that's going to have a decent volume at the position of being a wide receiver too. And I think that would be good for you. Because Shakir's not always going to be going off every week too. So you've got a little bit of instability there, but I think the right person, if you did a package deal, you could end up with someone a little bit higher. I think that could be a good move for you. This one from Obese Monkey, looking at trading Barkley for 2 picks, trying to see if anyone bites. I mean, Dynasty and talking picks. I mean, 2 firsts for Barkley. I don't think it's too crazy. But I deal with people that are
2 firsts for Barkley. I would do it.
Yes.
A first and a second, depending if you're a contender right now.
First and second.
I'd want somebody to overpay.
Oh yeah, no, I hold my running backs for ransom.
I'm a bit of a hoarder when it comes to, and I know that the jam is to load up on wide receivers in Dynasty.
Yeah.
But
that's not my jam. I hoard running backs.
Got a lot of Saquon. One league I've got Saquon, CMC, Jacobs, Breece Hall, Jonathan Taylor. Like, I'm a hoarder, Sam. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Again, this is a support group is what it's turning into for those that have, football addictions, hoarding problems. Hi, I'm Sam. I hoard running backs. Speaking of running backs, this one from Kanan. Is it worth it to hold Pacheco right now?
Depending on your roster and how deep your league is, I'm okay dropping him. All he serves right now is temptation.
I know.
To put him in my starting lineup because of what he did, 2 seasons ago. Sam, something's off Pacheco. Like, both of those Patrick Mahomes laterals that turned into fumbles.
Mm-hmm.
Like, one Pacheco chipped and started running towards his own end zone, in the wrong direction. And I know that he runs hard. And maybe he's not always able to see where he's going because he's, just running with fury. But
yeah.
I mean, he literally angled towards his own back pylon, on a check down.
Yeah.
I don't.
Isn't the analogy that he runs like a kid trying on shoes at Foot Locker?
Yeah. That's a good one.
He's got to test them out, make sure that they work. Yeah, I don't think it's worth it to hold on to Pacheco. I think he's got enough of a name, and it's the Chiefs. For the right person in your league, you could probably offload him. And I'm kind of with you. I don't want to have to deal with the headache of, do I start him or not? Consensus rankings on Fantasy Life, rest of season rankings, he's ranked at running back 34. So barely a flex option in terms of how you're actually seeing him.
I think he's in jeopardy of losing his job. I could see if Kansas City loses this game to Baltimore, that they potentially start to look outside of the organization for contributions either at wide receiver or specifically at running back, Sam. Right now, Pacheco has 25 carries for 92 yards, and he's competing with Kareem Hunt. He has no scores, 4 catches for 13 yards on just 6 targets through the first 3 games, and this offense desperately needs playmakers. What are we doing here? Yeah, speaking of panic, yes, I'm panicked on Pacheco.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Do you think, just really quickly, because you mentioned the Chiefs could be looking after this game, very curious. We've got and I'm sure it's going to come up in our petty parlays later. We've got a very angry Ravens team going up against the Chiefs team that just finally, got a win on the board. If they do lose this game, do you think that they go and call up their old friend Tyreek Hill and pull him out of Miami?
I certainly think it's possible. Specifically with where Miami's season seems to be going right now.
We're talking about teams going on the toilet.
Speaking of the toilet.
Speaking of hot garbage and shitting the bed. The Dolphins.
Yeah. Definitely Tyreek Hill's on speed dial. And I don't know. I mean, personally, I think that a player like Breece Hall would make a lot of sense for the Kansas City Chiefs, but maybe that's wish casting.
Yeah. I feel like what's going to happen is Tyreek is going to text his friend Travis and say, hey, I'd love to hop on the podcast this week. And he's going to hop on the podcast. And by the weekend, they'll be teammates again. I think it's just going to be some level of pettiness from Tyreek jumping back to the Chiefs because, he wants to win Super Bowls and
could be real petty. All right, a couple more questions, and then let's get through. We've got, I think, a couple more running backs I want to talk about in terms of who we're panicking or staying patient on. Definitely want to get to Ashton Jeanty next because I have questions. But this one from Dr. Cheeses. Do you think I should start Love or Goff? Leaning towards Love because of Dallas's defense. Yeah, I'm going Jordan Love this week. Just for that reason, because it seems like everybody's having a great game against the Dallas defense. So if Russell Wilson can do it and Caleb Williams can do it, Jordan Love off of an embarrassing loss against the winless Cleveland Browns last week. Feels like a good place for Love to have a nice game.
Absolutely. And, even with the rotating injuries at wide receiver, he finds ways to make plays with that offense. Tucker Kraft definitely being a must start for me in that one as well, just in terms of players I like going into that matchup. Last one, and then let's talk a little bit more about these running backs that I'm panicked on. This one from Chef. Would you trade Adams and Olave for Nico Collins?
No. And
I'm scared
Nico Collins is a good player, but this offense is a mess right now, Sam. Like, CJ Stroud is not playing good football. They do have some issues on the offensive line. That 50-yard touchdown he scored last week, Sam, that was a busted coverage from the Jacksonville defense, which I think has been better this year. Like, I know that we want to slam and dunk on the Jags pass defense from last year. They look better. Jordan Lewis has had a very big impact, sprinkling in some Travis Hunter. Yes, Collins is still a good option, but why give up, Adams, who is, I think, right there as like a fringe top 15 option in a offense that, is going to rely on specifically and funnel all of their targets to two players. And Adams is being productive. So
Adams has been surprisingly productive. Again, you're dealing with Stafford who, doesn't need to throw the ball as much to stay effective. It's not going to be as many passes as maybe other quarterbacks, but they are efficient. And I feel like Adams is very efficient with the targets that he does get. So for me, I would rather have Adams and even Olave. Again, we talk as much as we did about the Saints being behind. Olave is still there. He's still going to get some targets, some volume. I am very concerned about the inconsistency as a whole from the Texans. And I feel like you're going to be living off of crumbs if you're trading both of them for Collins.
Yeah, I just don't. If you're going to tear up, I'd rather have other guys than Nico Collins.
I think that's fair. All right, a couple more players we want to talk about in terms of if we're staying patient with or panicking. I got to talk about Ashton Jeanty because I have one league in particular where I have Omarion Hampton and Ashton Jeanty, and at least Hampton is starting to get there. It's taken some time, expected it to, but I didn't expect it to take this long for Ashton Jeanty. And it was somehow insult to injury to watch, Trey Tucker put up practically a 40 burger for many players, for many fantasy managers, I should say, this past week. And it was just nothing left for Jeanty. What is happening? Like, why is he not being used? Is it that the running game as a whole and their strategy for him is ineffective? Because I wouldn't expect that from Carroll.
So Sam, I'll tell you what the issue is. It's the offensive line. I know recently your boy, former Pittsburgh Steeler Ryan Clark, was saying he just doesn't have it. What he doesn't have an offensive line is what he doesn't have. Because I don't agree with that take whatsoever. Sam, I think that the stats kind of tell the story. Like the yards after contact per attempt, or like total yards after contact this season. Like Jeanty has 144 yards rushing on the season. 147 of them have come after contact. Let that sink in. Like, that's how frequently he is being hit either at or behind the line of scrimmage. And even as a great player and prospect that I think Jeanty is going to be in the NFL, you can't be. You're not going to have a ton of fantasy success, in particular when you're not getting any volume in the passing game. I think his role will expand there, Sam. I really, really do. Yes, it's frustrating to watch Trey Tucker do what he did. It's frustrating to see a player like Jeanty, who you invested first-round draft capital in. I'm still going to stay patient, though. I believe in Jeanty. We saw it with Omarion Hampton. He's in a better situation. I understand. I still think that they're trying to figure things out there in Las Vegas. the offensive line has to get better. I think Jackson Powers-Johnson coming back should help things, assuming he is able to get back in the lineup within the next week or two.
Hopefully that helps. They're going to need something to break their way. They've got the Bears this week, then the Colts, Titans, Chiefs, and bye in week 8. After which, kind of a mixed bag in terms of games. You got Jacksonville, so hoping for a real high in week 9. But then you've got Denver, Dallas, we're not mad about, Cleveland, Chargers, Denver. Like, it's just kind of a ping-ponging back and forth between good and bad matchups kind of the rest of the season. So you really hope that they get in sync, that line gets a little bit stronger with that addition to make you feel good about starting him. Because right now I don't feel good about starting him. He's currently ranked running back 33 at the position.
He's a great buy low, that's for sure.
Buy low. So I guess that's the question. Like, if we're staying patient because we're holding him. Are you someone that is also looking at buying low because maybe the Ashton Jeanty manager is just blowing up the group chat with how upset they are, and you're just looking to spend cheaply to get depth?
100%. If you believe that it's a patience thing, then yeah, I mean, I believe that that's a buy low window on some of these players. Yeah.
Okay, fair. All right. Let's see. One more running back I want to talk about before we jump into a couple more questions. RJ Harvey. I know. Sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. A jump scare. RJ Harvey. Again, another player that I think a lot of us are really hyped on going into this season. Immediate usage. Just all of the arguments for positivity are there. There's talent. Alas, J.K. Dobbins is getting the volume for this team and for this run game. Talking about his consistency the last 3 games, he's had, over 13 fantasy points, depending on your format, consistently. A touchdown in every game for the last 3 weeks. Again, I'm not talking about Harvey. I'm talking about Dobbins. Like, let me slide on over. Not a single touchdown for Harvey. Under 10 fantasy, under 7 fantasy points, really, in most scoring formats for the last 3 weeks. Brutal. Absolutely
brutal has definitely been. You can't. I am panicked about him, Sam. As much as I love Harvey, and I saw the vision for him being an impact fantasy player, even with splitting work, but he's not really splitting work. That's the problem.
That's the issue. This is not 50-50, 60-40. This is 70-30.
We've seen his carries drop from week 1 to week 2 to week 3 every single week, 6.52. Now, conversely, he has seen his passing work jump through the roof in 3 consecutive weeks with 1 target, 2 targets, 3 targets. Like, there's no case to be made right now.
No.
For RJ Harvey, that other than you're just stashing him on your bench and you're hoping that at some point down the road that he's going to be called upon. And then he makes the most with those opportunities because, yes, he's an explosive player. But right now, if you're only giving him 5 or 6 touches a game, it's just not enough. You can't trust him.
J.K. Dobbins is ranked 10th at the position.
I know. It's tip of the hat to J.K. Dobbins. He did it 2 years in a row, Sam. 2 years in a row. Signed off the couch and has exploded through the first month of the season.
It's just not fair. All right, let's talk about tight ends because I got to move on from the running back conversation. It's just too stressful. Sweating. It hurts. We've gone almost a full hour covering amazing questions from our awesome viewers. Really appreciate you guys tuning in every week. If you haven't already, please remember to like and subscribe to Women of Fantasy Football YouTube or Club Fantasy Football, depending on wherever you like to listen to us. Can you all link the Discord? I will ask Josh to add that to the show notes after the show so you guys can join the Discord to ask questions there for sure. Thank you, George, for throwing that in the chat. But like I said, make sure that you're liking and subscribing and following on Spotify and Apple playlists as well so you don't miss a single episode. Let's talk about tight ends quickly. Colston Loveland dealing with a hip injury, so I don't feel bad about benching him, and I probably wouldn't feel bad about dropping him because at this point, he is not going to be seeing much of the field. It doesn't feel like. in terms of usage, and it feels like there's other tight ends that are just so much more successful. Jake Ferguson is freaking, I think he's tight end 1 right now. Like, we all saw that coming. Yeah, Jake Ferguson, tight end 1.
Well, I think a lot
And
of
that's not going to go down because CD's hurt.
A lot of it. I mean, granted, he did see 12 targets in the week 2 shootout against the New York Giants, which is still a weird sentence to say. But 14 targets with no CeeDee Lamb, Sam. We're probably talking somewhere between 7 to 10 targets a week. And at the tight end position, that will get it done. So, he's, I think, a top 5 option at the position. And I know that probably sounds a little bit crazy, but in PPR, that's a high enough floor that I'm willing to put him that high in my fantasy rankings because I just see the floor being that high. And the Cowboys are going to find themselves in shootouts quite a bit, Sam, if that defense doesn't get fixed, which means a lot of underneath targets for Jake Ferguson.
So, obviously, Ferguson is a love. With Loveland, not a love, a drop almost entirely in this point, depending on your roster depth and your league format and how you like to. Again, we like to hoard players here on Sideline Banter. Derek and I are admitted, hoarders. So we're like to be honest and transparent about that. However, I have Loveland in a couple leagues, and he is just looking like he is crowding my bench for better players that are actually getting work right now. So for myself, it's not even panicked. I want to cut ties and move forward with my life.
Yeah, I don't see the path. I feel like I like to put an optimistic. We're both optimistic people, Sam. I think we're both positive people, even though we've had a lot of negative, pessimistic conversations during this podcast. We're both positive people at our
rays
core.
Of sunshine.
I don't have a case to be made for Colston Loveland.
No.
There's just not enough volume, and now he's dealing with an injury. I'm good. Drop him.
I've given my last fuck for Colston Loveland, so I'm moving forward. All right, another tight end. I want your quick take on. We've got a couple more questions in the chat, and then we got to get to your petty parlays. We've just gone over our hour, and amazing questions in the chat. So appreciate you guys tuning in. So we'll make sure we don't miss a single one of those. But one more tight end I want to talk about, because we talked about this a little bit before the show. Mark Andrews did kind of save himself a little bit, but on the opposite end, Sam LaPorta is not saving himself right now. The Lions are looking amazing. The double threat at running back is looking amazing. We talk about Amon-Ra, also phenomenal. There is just not a morsel left for this starving family of Lions offensive players for poor Sam LaPorta.
So in week number 1, when they were trailing, 9 targets, 6 receptions, 79 yards. When they're playing with a lead, I don't know if he's going to see enough volume. He's a great player, just kind of a cog in the Detroit Lions powerhouse offensive wheel, if you will. The encouraging thing is, on third down, I think his first 3 receptions, Sam, all went for first downs last night. So he is somebody who they do trust to, move the sticks and work the middle of the field in passing situations. But, when they got it going on the ground like they did with Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, and then, of course, you have Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamison Williams, and we didn't even see Isaac Tesla, but I mean, they can just hit you in so many different ways. You're just going to have some frustrating weeks with Sam LaPorta. There's signs of life from Mark Andrews, and it felt like like that game, Sam, when he was, catching touchdowns and, some contested catches. Like, it almost felt like it was like a monkey off his back. He was still carrying the demons from last year's postseason drop, right? And it wasn't going his way in week 1 and week 2. This was a get-right game for Mark Andrews, and I think he can now put that, horrific drop on the 2-point conversion in the past. But, I still think it's going to be something where his volume's going to, be up and down. Kind of a frustrating play. And we haven't even seen Isaiah Likely yet. So I think it's actually a nice opportunity to maybe sell high. But
sell high? Yeah. Well, okay, here, let me talk about my specific situation, and then I'll jump to these questions in the chat from our amazing viewers. So I started Sam LaPorta, and I had Juwan Johnson on my bench.
Okay.
I can't say that I'm going to be continuing that format for myself going forward in terms of trust and looking for upside and trying to get wins week in and week out. Right now on ESPN, Juwan Johnson's projected at 11.1 fantasy points with LaPorta projected at 9.7. We already talked about the Lions matchup against the Browns not being a very favorable one. On the other end, Juwan Johnson is at Buffalo, but they're going to have to play from behind. It's a same but different because teams can score on the Bills. They can. It's not impossible against this defense. You see what I'm saying? I'm frustrated.
Sam, I think you're starting Juwan Johnson.
I think that I am too. And it feels weird and wrong.
Do you remember a guy back in 2015 named Gary Barnidge?
Oh my God. I loved him. Who did he have a show with? One of his teammates. They did like a buddy show, and it was, oh my God, I'm blanking on which teammate it was. It was freaking
I think
hilarious.
in like year 7 of his NFL career, Gary Barnidge had this top 5 fantasy season because he was on a horrible Browns football team. The volume was there for one season. And right now, the Saints are so bad.
They're so bad.
And Juwan Johnson's on the football field enough.
Yeah. It's like the crazy hot scale that for people. But it's just like the team's so bad, but the opportunity for the tight end is so good. It's just hitting that stride. Sorry, I made you.
I am starting to answer to comment on your dilemma.
Yeah.
I'm starting Juwan Johnson this week over Sam LaPorta.
I'm panicked that that's what I'm doing, but it is what it is.
I don't feel good about it, but
I don't feel good about it, but we're going to do it anyways. Yes.
All right, he's got 28 targets through 3 games.
I can't. Okay, I'm doing it. It feels wrong. My hands are clammy. It's fine. All right, we've got a couple of questions that kind of all connect from our lovely viewer, George. George, I'm going to get to this right now for you. He is 0-3. Have someone offering them Bijan and DJ Moore for Jefferson and Breece. It's half point PPR and so polite, not to blow up the chat, but that'd leave me with Pearsall, Terry, DJ Moore, Golden, and Mooney at receiver, and Chase Brown, Bijan, and Javonte at running back. Well, we already gave our thoughts on Chase Brown, so we don't have to unpack that again. They're not good. But you do have Bijan, who has been fantastic, and we're not upset about Javonte there for you. So the question goes back to someone's offering me Bijan and DJ Moore for Jefferson and Breece.
I would do it. Yeah. I right now, I trust that Bijan's going to return that elite weekly value more than I trust Jefferson. And
simply because of the injury situation with JJ McCarthy and Carson Wentz under center.
McCarthy comes back. Who knows? We don't know. So
there's a lot of unknowns.
There's a lot of unknowns when it comes to Justin Jefferson. And if you can get Bijan Robinson in return for Justin Jefferson, I'll cash out at that price.
The half point PPR helps it too. So I definitely think that helps, but appreciate your patience and staying with us there, George. Hopefully that answer helped you. This one from Philly Mike. And then I've got one more from Dr. Jesus, and then we will get to your petty parlays, Tate, and wrap this up. It's been an amazing show. You guys have been awesome. So this one from Philly Mike, Fred Warner, broken collarbone after practice, has been revealed just now. Expect to miss 3 months. That's brutal. Way to bring down the vibes, Philly Mike.
San Francisco is snake bitten.
They, yeah.
You lose Bosa and Warner in the same week. That's
not good.
Oh,
that's bad. That's not good.
This is going to be. This has to feel like the most somber 3-0 start to a season in a long time in San Francisco.
I get this question a lot before we get to this question from Dr. Cheeses, because my coworkers all know how much I talk football in my time away from the office. Mm-hmm. And I always get this at this point of the year. Sam, are we seeing more injuries than we've ever seen before? And I think that the statistics at the end of the season, it all ends up evening out. It just feels like a lot, I think, because we've been away from football for so long. We finally got our favorite toy back, and now people are trying to take it away from us. And I think that's why it hurts so bad. And unfortunately, it is a violent game. People do get hurt. It sucks. And for teams like San Francisco and others that are just snake bitten, it's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes, and it's the hand that you're dealt.
Yeah, I'd have to take a look at data to see like when teams really started resting their starters for the entirety of preseason. Does that lead to more injuries? I'd have to see data to really parse through it and have a take on it, but certainly does feel like, the last couple of years there have been more injuries within the first month of the season than normal.
Feels like that. It always feels like it's us, but it's just like when you're on the freeway and you're stuck in traffic in one lane and the lane next to you is moving and you jump over and it slows down again. I feel like it's that phenomenon over and over. But let's get to this question, and then I want to hear all your petty parlays because there's some really fun ones in week 4 that we've got for you. So from Dr. Cheeses, do you see Flowers getting more touches or Pickens? Well, with CeeDee's injury, I feel like the targets are there. Despite the fact that Pickens likes to get a little bit frustrated on the sidelines and cause a bit of a spectacle, the targets are there and the volume is going to him. With someone like Flowers, it should come back and even out. I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of splitting hairs between where the targets are going to go between the two.
I don't know about you. I really haven't been all that impressed with George Pickens.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to not be negative because...
But I will say over the next month, probably Pickens, I think, has a slight edge in my weekly rankings, but not by much. And when CeeDee Lamb returns, down the road, I want to be hitting my stride, Sam, when we're entering the fantasy football playoffs.
Sure.
So I'd probably rather have Flowers over Pickens rest of season. But within the next month, I could see Pickens having a chance to see more targets and receptions than Flowers.
Making him a flex favorite, I could see that. That makes sense. Again, given the matchups. All right. One of my favorite things that we do here on Sideline Banter are use Derek's amazing brain for parlays, but we like to make them spicy and fun. So we go into our petty parlays discussion for the week. We have 2 matchups to talk about, and I'm excited to hear each one. Let's talk about the Packers Cowboys. We talked about them quite a bit during this episode. Top revenge game for Micah Parsons returning to Texas. And I'm hoping that you've got some fun defensive parlays for our amazing viewers and listeners.
It's the Tater parlay of the day. Count them with me, kids. 1, 2, 3 leg parlay. You thought I was going to skip it that time, Sam.
I thought you were. We've got so many people watching right now. So many people.
I know. I was waiting for you to say, I hate you again and roll your eyes. But
I do it inside.
So when it comes to the Packers and Cowboys, Sam, it's kind of weird when you go through a public divorce and everybody has to meet less than a month later at like a family gathering, right?
Like it's like back to school night and the parents are back and everyone knows the drama. You're just waiting for it to blow up.
Yeah, and you still like the entire family has to be there, and everybody's still, cool and tight with the sibling or the significant other that had to leave the house. I'm sure Mike Parsons is, beloved still in that Cowboys locker room for the most part, but
and it feels like he's pulling up in a better car. He's happier. He's got a glow about him. He's just doing well.
And they're coming off of an embarrassing loss against the Cleveland Browns.
Yes.
So Micah returning to Jerry World. I'm going 2 sacks.
Love it.
Two petty sacks against his former team, sticking it to Jerry Jones. And
I like it.
Anybody that's, was not happy or trying to chirp that, this was the right trade. Okay. Whatever you say. Moving on. Chiefs Ravens.
Yes. All right. Let's set you up. So your other 2, are they both going to be in Chiefs Ravens?
No.
Oh, okay. You got a third one to surprise me with. All right.
A 2-parter here. So,
okay.
Sam, there's another bit of petty storyline here, if you will.
Okay.
This time, there was a small, I would say it didn't even make it out of the honeymoon phase relationship between the Kansas City Chiefs and DeAndre Hopkins.
Fair.
This was one that ended pretty badly, right? They had some good times, but things kind of blew up on the biggest stage. And it was like, this isn't going to work out. Sorry, DeAndre. And so D-Hop goes to Baltimore. He's going to be petty.
Okay.
It's right now, all he does in Baltimore, it feels like, is catch touchdowns. So an anytime touchdown for DeAndre Hopkins, and Sam,
I like that
one
one
on top of it.
Okay.
who's the one player in the NFL that you wouldn't want to tackle when you know he's angry?
Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
3 straight games where he's fumbled the football.
He's angry.
And
you don't want to see him when he's angry.
He was caught on camera trying to slam his helmet down, and he lost his balance and kind of fell on the bench. And you just feel like he is biting or chomping at the bit for the next opportunity to get on the football field and take it out on somebody. I think he's going to take it out on the Chiefs. I think that this Chiefs defense traditionally is very good against opposing running backs. I think it's going to be a nice day for Derrick Henry. I'm going to go anytime touchdown, and I'm going to go longest run.
Okay.
Longest run over 20 yards.
I like it.
Weird parlay there. One more. We're going your Pittsburgh Steelers, Sam, against the Minnesota Vikings. Sam, who's more petty than Aaron Rodgers?
I think that when you look it up in terms of petty and football, I think that Aaron Rodgers' face is next to that description. So I think it's pretty high.
Do you remember a talking point where Tom Brady was considering going to, I believe, the Las Vegas Raiders? And I'm paraphrasing here, and this is, again, a report that I'm not substantiating, but it was kind of like, you're going to stick with that MFer?
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers wanted to go to Minnesota. I think that that's why he waited as long as he did to sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And JJ McCarthy has an ankle injury. Some say it's, a phantom one. I don't buy into that. But the point of the matter is they decided to go with JJ McCarthy over Aaron Rodgers in 2025. Give me 3 touchdown passes for Aaron Rodgers, who I think is arguably the most petty player in the NFL. Perfect for petty parlays. That is your 1, 2, 3 Tater parlay of the day, kids.
Love it.
Good luck in week 4.
Thank you. And those were perfectly petty parlays. So many lovely snacks for our lovely viewers and listeners. So I really appreciate it. Let's get to 2 more questions before we go ahead and sign off, just because they're not stopping. There's so many. This one from Soccer. Should I do Jerry Jones and Kyler Murray for Benson?
It depends on who you have at quarterback, but if you have another good option, then you're basically doing Jeanty for Benson, and I say yes.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. This one from Zane Jones, Judkins or Benson at flex this week. I think the way that we're leaning is Benson. I'm
going Benson. As much as I like what I saw from Quinshon Judkins, I'm going to go with Benson, because that game script could get ugly if the Detroit Lions offense continues to roll.
Agreed. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this awesome show. Tate, we went so long this week, and every week our time has gone longer, but we've had some amazing questions. You guys have been so much fun in the chat, so thank you so much. Make sure you tune in next week for week 5. We'll be covering more waiver coverage. I'm sure there's plenty of players we'll be panicking on. I'll be answering your questions, and of course, we'll have more of Tate's petty parlays. So please go ahead and subscribe to everywhere you're getting your podcast, and we will see you next week. For Tate and myself, have a great week 4. Bye, guys.